On Sunday, we have the New York Guardians at the St. Louis BattleHawks. This line has moved. The BattleHawks are now favored by 10. I believe this line opened around 8, something like that. And we have an over-under of 40.5 on FanDuel Sportsbook. Sean, what do you think of this game?
Yeah, so St. Louis has definitely been the biggest surprise of 2020. You know, they were considered, I would say, a bottom 2 team heading in, and now they look like a top 3 team. So, you know, they won at Dallas and then lost a close game at Houston, which is one of the top 2 teams. And they get their first home game this week. So obviously I want to bet St. Louis, but at -10, I don't think I could do it. You know, New York, I sit here and make cases for Tampa Bay offense not being as bad as the score, but New York was just as bad as the score indicated last week. I mean, their offense never reached the red zone. So, yep, the shutout makes sense. So, you know, I don't like New York here. The line looks about right, but I think the over-under, I'm going to be joining Raybon on the under train here. I think in-game would be the way to do this. I think I could see St. Louis getting out to an early lead, you know, scoring on their first drive or something. But St. Louis is built to kind of play with a lead, so I could see them getting up early, and then just the pace of this game to go to a grinding halt, and that's when I'll comment on the under. So I think that's how I'm going to approach this game.
I love it. One idea, I think you could just parlay the 3 unders that don't have the Roughnecks. You know, like the Roughnecks scare me. I don't want to go there, but I think there's undervalue on the other 3 games, especially this game, and so that might be something if you just, you know, put just a little bit on it. Not a lot, but just a little bit to kind of have a little fun there. That might be a way to do this. Raybon, where are you on this game?
I totally agree with Sean. I want to bet the BattleHawks. I was all over them last week. That was my favorite XFL moment of the year so far. My guy Jordan Ta'amu on the 4th and long after the penalty, converting the first, getting a touchdown for the cover. You know, to cover the 8, it was 7.5. I think I got him at 8.5, but they ended up closing at 7.5. So really happy about that. St. Louis is a team I've liked from the jump. I think they're a lot better than we thought. And the key is, and I wrote this up in our favorite bets piece on actionnetwork.com last week, they're great at tackling. St. Louis is a great tackling team, far and away the best tackling team in the league. And so, yeah, I do agree with the under call, Sean. For week 1, St. Louis missed 3 tackles. Week 2, St. Louis missed 4 tackles. The league average is it's in the double digits. And so, you know, that just kind of shows you how well and how fundamentally sound St. Louis is. And when they're playing against a team like New York, who just got shut out, that just does not bode well. So it's too early to really rate any matchup as a 10-point spread at this point. Like, I think our consensus line is let's see what hold on, let me see what it is. 25.6. Yeah, okay. So our consensus line actually has this as a 5-point spread. So from that standpoint, and again, it's just too early to project these huge numbers, and this line is inflated, but at the same time, I don't feel great about the Guardians. You know, I really don't, just because of how good St. Louis is tackling. So probably a game where, yeah, I just look at the under to kind of get some value, or maybe even the under if books are releasing team totals later in the week, like they do for NFL. Looking at the under the team total for the Guardians as well.
Yeah, there might be theoretical value on the Guardians, but there's no way I would actually bet on the Guardians right now. I couldn't do it. No matter, I mean, well, I don't know. If it gets to 14, if it gets to 14, fine.
If they announce that they're starting Marquise Williams or even Luis Perez, would that change your opinion on them? Or
I think it would be better for them, right?
Yeah.
Because I think like a worst case scenario is they go with McGloin and then they bench him at halftime and then bring up another quarterback. No, I think they either have to stick with McGloin the whole time or just bench him now and go with the other guy. But given how they've kind of screwed things up so far, I imagine they will do the thing that is worst for them. Where are we with DFS plays?
Well, I was going to ask, real quick, odds maker. I think this one's for you. Like, you've done this for so long. You've made so many odds. Like, your line has it about 6.5. We have it. Freeman and I have it even lower, but that's still 3.5 points of value. Like, what do we do here? Like, are we wrong for like kind of still fading, or is this like, should we be jumping on this? Like, how do you what do you think?
Let's decide later in the week. I think this line's only going to go up. Nobody's betting on the Guardians. So if you're going to bet on the Guardians, you have a few days to decide if you want to bite that bullet. The question is, do you want to bet on Matt McGloin or not? And right now the answer is no. But like I asked Freeman, if they announce that Marquise Williams is starting, I think I would definitely bet on the Guardians. I think that's where their offense would get that spark. But just right now, like Freeman said, like the coaching, the decision making, it's really hard to back them.
Yeah. All right. DFS plays in this game. It's hard to go, I think, with anyone on the Guardians right now, although you could make a case for Mikael McKay. But St. Louis Battlehawks, Matt Jones is interesting. Jordan Tamu, I think, he's a half tier below Cardell Jones and PJ Walker, but I think he's clearly a top 3 quarterback in the league right now. And, he has 3 pretty balanced wide receivers just in terms of how that wide receiver unit is constructed and then the way that they are being used. How are you guys approaching DFS, Sean?
So for DFS, I really love LaDainian Washington at 8K. So there's 2 receivers. It's Nelson Spruce and Cam Phillips. They are by far the top 2 wide receivers in my model. And then there's a huge drop off, and I have Washington actually 3rd. It's pretty close between like wide receivers 3 and like 10, if I want to be honest. And he's only 8K, so he's the 11th most expensive receiver. Plus with him, I think he's a pivot off Pearson L, who's 2K more expensive. And I consider them, I mean, they're a 1-2 punch. They're basically the same in my model. So if Washington's going to be hopefully lower owned at that price, I think he's going to be one of my heavier plays this week. Just because, like I said, there's a big drop-off after the top 2, but I would consider him the number 3 just based on underlying usage, this offense. And yeah, AK, I think he's a great play.
Raybon, what about you?
Yeah, I think looking at this, like Tamu, to me, I actually have him a hair ahead of Walker and Jones. He is my number 1 quarterback this week. So I definitely think he's a top 3 play. If you look at, the film kind of backs it up. He is the number 2 rated PFF quarterback in terms of his passing grade and his overall grade. And out of the 5 quarterbacks that started 2 games, he has the highest completion percentage by far at 78.1%. And that's on the 2nd most attempts, 64 attempts. So it's not like a small sample size. He's 50 of 64. The next highest is Philip Walker at 62.3%. And Tamu also tied for the league lead in yards per attempt among those quarterbacks at 7.7. So I really like Tamu and was really impressed with what he did against Houston. I think if you watch the game, he threw a pick, it turned out to be a really crucial pick, but he thought he had a free play because it was somebody did in fact jump and the refs missed the call. And that game could have been totally different. St. Louis probably perhaps wins that game if not for that switch because the interception was returned and they got a touchdown out of it, I believe. So I think Tamu and this squad are kind of a high upside team. I'm looking at him. And then for running back, I think Matt Jones, he's been a high usage guy. He's been active in the pass game, and he's getting double-digit carries, which you can't really say about many backs in this league at this point. So I like Jones. I like Tamu, and I will be stacking St. Louis heavily. I think Pearson L kind of really showed that he's the go-to guy. He's a guy that he's not going to put up a huge yards per catch, but he's kind of that underneath security blanket who for this league gets open pretty well. So I like Pearson L, like Tamu, and like Matt Jones.
All right, and with you there on Tamu, and the one thing that he has going for him that the other guys don't, even though they're competent runners. I mean, I'd say even good runners. Like he's a very good runner, and they just use him a little bit more in the running game, and I think he scrambles a little bit better than the other guys, so he has a higher rushing floor there. So another reason to like him.